we can see here that in terms of maturity, the Selenium framework is very mature because it's supported in different programming languages. However, Cypress will only be JavaScript based. So how is Cypress different? So here's an image that I got from the Cypress website. So basically, before Cypress, you would need to install separate libraries to write your automated tests. There are also a lot of different tools to choose from. So if you're new to test automation, you might feel a bit like overwhelmed because there are so many choices. Cypress takes away all this, like complexities of setting up. So you can only focus on the thing that provides the most value, which is writing the tests. Cool. So the important question of all, why should you use Cypress? So first, it's very easy to set up. As long as you have Node and NPM installed, then you're all set. You just need to run this command right here if you wish to install Cypress globally. It's also very easy to run the tests. So Cypress provides 2 commands for running the tests. So this first command here called Cypress run. This will this will run your test headlessly on Electron, while Cypress open will open up the Cypress test runner and runs your test on interactive mode, which we'll see later. Here's a quick snapshot of the visual UI test runner. So for anyone who hasn't seen, Cypress has a unique offering called the Visual UI Test Runner, where you can see your tests interactively. The first time you run Cypress open, Cypress will provide a lot of different example files for you. So this will basically showcase all the different commands that you can use with Cypress. And you'll also notice that as of version 4.0.0, Cypress now allows you to run your tests on other browsers apart from Chrome. Currently, they have support for Firefox and Edge, with other browsers such as Safari and IE11 already receiving a lot of proposals. Cool. So I made this quick video just to look at the test runner again. So as you can see here, when tests are running, you also have a preview of your test application. Each time you hover on a command, the state of your application gets replayed. So this is very useful for debugging. You also have access to DevTools, which again makes it easier to debug the test because you'll have all the different logs that could be available for you. Cypress also has a built-in feature called the Selector Playground, which you can use to find what the selector is for the element that you wish to interact. You've also noticed here that I'm able to test for any accessibility issues directly on my Cypress tests. When a Cypress test fails, the error messages that it provides are very clear. Here is an example that I have where the test that I was trying to run failed because the page did not return a successful 200 status code. What I like about this is Cypress also gives you recommendation on how you can bypass these errors. And in the case where the error is quite complex, Cypress will also provide a link to their documentation so you can read more about it. So speaking of documentation, the Cypress team has invested a lot of their time to make sure that their documentation site is up to date and contains a lot of useful information. Apart from their documentation site, they also have a Cypress blog, which is updated from developers and QA engineers around the world. Their GitHub repo of the Cypress example recipes also showcase the different use cases on how one would use Cypress. It contains recipes on how to use the different Cypress commands, how to create a custom command, how to mock XHR requests, how to use data fixtures, and so on. There's also an extensive list of plugins which you can use. So on the video a while ago, you saw that I was able to run some accessibility testing. So that's done by using this plugin called Cypress Axe. If your team wants to use the Gherkin syntax in writing the test, then you can use Cypress Cucumber preprocessor. If you want to do visual testing, you can try Cypress Image Snapshots or Applitools. The full list of the available plugins can be found on this link, so have a look at it if you want after this webinar. So now let's try to write our first Cypress test. I have created a public repo here, so you can fork the example test that I'm going to write for today. I'm just going to switch to my VS Code and just open my terminal as well. So I'm just going to quickly launch the Cypress test runner. So you can't see my terminal, but I'm just going to quickly open terminal here as well. Oh, okay, that didn't work. I'll just stick to using my other terminal. So basically, I'm just trying to run npx cypress open from the command line. Again, this will just open the test runner, which I'll share on the screen once it's up. Cool. So I have two spec files here. This is the first, so this file is the one that I'm going to edit so that I can show you how to write your first test. And this version 2 is just what it looks like after I've done some refactoring. So I'm just gonna quickly open this file. And at the moment, you shouldn't see anything running because I haven't written any of the Cypress tests. Cool. So at the moment, if I click this test here, it says that no commands were issued in this test. So what I can do is we can try to implement this this first test. So I'm just going to quickly demo the app that we're going to test. So it's just a simple to-do app. Cypress also comes built in with a cypress.json, where you can basically store your base URL, any like environment variables, for example. So in this case, I've said to Cypress that my base URL would be this link. I'm just gonna quickly show it here. So at least you're all familiar with the app. Cool. So this is just a simple to-do app. We can type, whatever we want, and then we can mark them as completed. So that's just a simple to-do app that we can use. Cool. So I'm just gonna open this file, and I've added some notes here already just to help me find out all the different selectors. So it's quite easier for everyone to see. But basically, the first thing that we need to do is we want to visit the application. So if we type sci.visit, the good thing here as well is that it has automatic Intellisense built in already. And this is achieved by adding this line of code here. So reference type Cypress. So since we already declared our base URL on cypress.json, we don't have to type the full URL. All we need to do is type / and then if I save this, the good thing that I really like is that it will automatically run our tests, and then it will load our preview application here. So you can see here that I was able to visit our site perfectly. So now I want to click this to do field, and I want to type in some to-do items that I want to do for today. So for that, I need to do a sci.get. So sci.get basically gets the element that you want to interact. You just need to pass your selector. In this case, it's the new to-do. And then what's great is you can chain all the different commands. So since we want to type a new item, all we need to do is click type and then the value that we want. So it would be do introduction to Cypress. Good thing as well is it is also recognize like keyboard shortcuts, so I can do enter, which would simulate an enter command. Let's go ahead and save that again, and we'll see here that our test is being run and our to-do item has been successfully added here. You can hover on the different commands and you can see that our state is being replayed, which is really cool. Cool. I'm just going to add another to-do item. So let's just do the same thing. New to-do, type, have dinner. So now that we have these two to-do items, what I want to do now is to do my assertion. So I want to be able to assert that there's two items that have been added in successfully. So I'm just going to do the sci.get again, but this time I'm going to pass in the selector for my to-do list, which is to-do list. Oh. Cool. So if I quickly just show you, this list, in order for us to get the two items, we need to be able to find the li element on this selector. So with Cypress, you can do something like, I think it's .find, and we're saying here that we want to find the list selector on the to-do list element. And then we're just saying that once we have this this list, we want to be able to assert that this list is equal to 2. So we should do a .should, and then to do the assertion, it's all added here on this Intellisense, so I don't need to memorize it. So should be equal to 2. Cool. Let's go ahead and save this. And if everything is all good, our test should pass. But I think it's going to fail. To be equal to. So let's just debug why that failed. So I'm just going to quickly open my DevTools console. So it says that it was able to find 2 lists on our array. Just gonna go back here quickly. Get just to make sure our selectors are all good. I used the incorrect assertion because we're saying that it should be equal, whereas we're actually trying to get the length of our list. So that's on my part. So I'm just gonna quickly do another assertion here. Yeah, so hopefully this should pass now. Cool. So now we're saying here that our test is passed and it was able to find 2 lists. So our assertion and basically our test is now passing. I'm just going to add another test here, and I basically wanted to show that we could mark a to-do item as completed. But before that, because each of these tests are independent, we need to be able to move some of the code into a like a before each hook, so we don't have to write all these different commands again. So I'm just going to introduce the before each hook. So basically, we're saying here that before we run our test, we need to visit the home page, not the home page, but the to-do page, and then type these two items. Cool. Let's just do that, and then now we could implement this. Cool. So you can see here that on our second test, we also have two to-do items, and I just want to mark the first one as completed. So to do that, again, we just need to do a side.get, and the selector that I want for the toggle is called toggle. And because we want to click on the first one, with Cypress, you can use the .first command. If you want to click the last one, they also have a last command, but in this case, I just want to toggle the first one, and then I want to do a .click. Cool. Just going to save that, and then check that our item has been marked as completed. So you can see here as well on the Cypress test runner that our test has been marked as completed. So that's all good. For our assertion, I want to test that if I click the completed tab, that I can see this item. So to do that, I'm going to showcase another way to identify selectors. So Cypress has a method called .contains. So what this will do is it will find an element with the text completed, and then we'll just say, if Cypress finds that, we want to click on that button. And then I'm also just gonna quickly showcase a custom command. So if you're used to doing page object models with Cypress, they have this custom commands that you can use. So it's just basically a reusable command that you can use in any of your tests. To do that, I've already created the custom command here, but basically to do that, there is a commands.js file. And the way to add a custom command in Cypress is you just need to call cypress.commands.add, pass in the method name. If you need to pass any sort of like parameters, so if you want to do like login, you can pass all the parameters here. But in this case, I'm passing nothing because I don't have any like parameters to pass. And in here, you've seen that it's just a simple Cypress command. So we're getting the to-do list, we're finding the lists on that to-do list, and we just want to invoke the text attribute on our first list. We need to return the value so we could assert it on our test. So I'm just going to type in get first to do item, which is the name of our custom command, and we're saying that it should be equal to, I'm just going to copy this one. And hopefully that should pass. Cool. So you can see here that both of our tests pass. So just by demoing, a simple like test for Cypress, I hope you can see why like developers love using this tool, why different UA engineers are also like switching to using Cypress. It's just very easy, and I like the fact that there's a visual test runner, so we don't need to write additional like console logs or like keep restarting our test so we could see that it's basically loading correctly on our browser. It's basically very easy to do like a Cypress, like a test-driven development or like a BDD way, because first you'll just have to like write your test, and if you see it fail, you'll basically write the code that will make the test pass. So it's just very handy. The last thing that I just want to show you, so for example, here on our before each, you've noticed that we're calling the new to-do selector twice. So with Cypress, there is a feature called Alias. So I'm just going to click on this v2.spec. And then in here, you could see that I'm saying that my new to-do selector should be alias as add to-do. And then I'm just referencing that alias. So instead of calling the selector itself, I'm just calling the alias. So this is quite handy. So if you need to change the selector rather than like changing it on different areas, you just need to change it in one place, and that will be done for you automatically because you're using the alias. Cool. So hopefully by doing this quick demo, you've seen what the different features of Cypress has to offer. This is just a very basic introduction, but if you need more information, you can always visit their Cypress docs. Just gonna go back to my presentation. Cool. So as with any tool, there are always limitations. So currently they have a permanent limitation of not being able to support multiple tabs. They also don't support visiting more than one unique domain in your test. So for example, if you're using authentication for your login and it's currently on a different domain, you'll have to write the login test via sending API requests instead. They also don't support iframes directly, but there is a workaround on how to test iframes in Cypress. All the different workarounds for the different limitations are documented here, so have a look and see if Cypress would be the right tool for you. Cool. So that basically brings me to the end of the webinar. If there's any questions, like feel free to ask me now, or if there's anything that's been added to the chat, I'm just gonna quickly open that. If I can find it.
Just one question here. So you mentioned that there is a limitation for the authentication. So you mentioned something like, what is the alternative? Let's say, because we have the front end application and we have the kind of authentications services where we need to authenticate in order to log in into our front end application.
Yeah.
So how can we handle this? Can you please repeat that again?
Yeah, so you'll have to do it via your API. So all the different authentications, they should have some API endpoints that you can access. It will be different per like project basis, because the login authentication that's been implemented will be different on every companies. But if you look at their example recipe, Cypress actually has some example code on how you could achieve this. So I haven't demoed it here, but basically Cypress has a built-in method to test your API called sci.request. So this will, send a get request, a post request to your API endpoints, which you can then use to test your login. And then basically, if you're using, some tokens or some session IDs, you'll be able to grab those from the API command, and then you can set those as cookies in your in your front end application. So there's also a method to set cookies in Cypress, which is just called sci.setCookie. And once you've grabbed those session tokens or any sort of cookies for your authentication, you can just use this command to set it.
Thanks.
Cool. Do you have to import custom commands to the test file? Yes, but this is already done automatically by Cypress. So if you click on the support index.js, the first time you set up your Cypress framework, they're already importing the commands folder for you. So if you want to create a separate file for your custom commands, you just have to import it here on the index.js.
Sorry, I just have one quick question, Mary. Thank you for the demo. It was really nice. Myself, Jai. How you handle the cross domain? So let's say you want to authenticate on third party, like a banking site, and you want to come back to your application again.
Yeah.
But
So
currently, the problem I'm having is we can't able to do that. It doesn't allow the cross origin policy.
yeah. So this is one of their permanent limitation. In one of the projects that we try to do the authentication, our Okta domain is different from our front-end domain. Even though we were able to log in via the API from the Okta endpoint, every time we try to visit our test application, it's just giving us errors that we're not allowed to visit a different domain. So
Yeah.
that is one of their permanent limitations. There's some suggestions from other people that they use like a Puppeteer script and then use that script to test the authentication and then visit the site or something. So again, this is one of their permanent limitation. I haven't found a like a better solution, but once I do, I'll try to write a blog about it. But unfortunately, so far we're also stuck with that issue if your of the domain or your authentication domain is different than your test domain.
Just slightly off topic question. Sorry, one more again. Have you heard about test cave?
Yep, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's great. Thank you. If you, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Cool. Could you please share the URL of GitHub? Yep, I'll share it on the chat after. I'll also share it on the meetup group, so everyone should be able to have access to it. Elizabeth, your tests were on the front end, but have you found Cypress a good tool for headless or not? Cool. So I've recently done a lunch and learn, just like a couple of days ago, on how we're currently using Cypress as an API testing tool. So far, it's working really well for us. We're able to do like a simple get, post request, delete request, all those things. I guess if anyone wants to see the slides or the GitHub repo, I can share that as well. Cool. From KM, is CI/CD integration reporting comparable with tools like Selenium? So in terms of CI integration, it's quite straightforward. So you can use their Docker images to pull from, and then you can just basically run the commands that you have locally. In terms of reporting, so every time you run your tests, so I don't think we had a failing test, but basically every time you have a failing test, Cypress will automatically take a screenshot of the state of your application, and then it will also take a video recording. So what we're currently doing is every time we have a failed test, we store the different screenshots as an artifact. So when the CI build fails, we can just click on the artifacts and then see that all the different images which show why our tests are failing. You can also use a plugin called Mocha Awesome, which you can use for having like a nicer reporting. But that's like a separate plugin that you'll have to install with Cypress. Yep, so I've kind of answered this one as well regarding on reporting. Can you show some Gherkin structured example? Yes, I can, but not on today's webinar, but basically you just need to import the Cypress Cucumber plugin. I can try to create like a post about it, but it should just be fairly straightforward. One of the teams that we're working on at News UK, because they're quite used to using the BDD Gherkin syntax, they are using that plugin to write their tests using Gherkin. Can you integrate Cypress with Jira so the results of the tests are in Jira? Not that I know of if there is a Jira integration webhook. I know that if you're using Slack, there is a Cypress Slack webhook that you can use. So every time a test fail, a notification will be sent to a channel. But I haven't played around with any sort of Jira integration. Can you explain how we can use WebSockets to run a server before test run? So do you mean if you want to have a mock server in place before you run your tests? Okay, I'm just gonna move the chat here. I would need more information on this question before I type
Yes, Maria. Yes, Maria. That's right.
Hiya.
Hiya.
So do you mean if you want to mock some external requests before you run your test?
Yeah, it could be a mock server or it could be one of the server I want to run before the perform the test run, test execution.
Yep, you can do that. I actually have a GitHub repo that I can share where I created a mock server so I can easily control the test data that I'm using before my test is run. If I can, I can share that in here as well. Let me just open up my GitHub repo so I don't forget.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Cool. I wonder if there are any measurement on how much time it consumes to warm up resources for running end-to-end tests with Cypress in comparison to classic Selenium. That's a very good question. I guess I haven't really seen any actual measurement, but it's just from like personal experience. So if I need to get Selenium up and running, I would need to install like other like libraries as well. So I need to install because I'm using JavaScript. So when we were using WebDriver IO before, it was really a good tool, but we had to install like the different plugins like Mocha, and like in terms of like stubbing and mocking, we also have to install other libraries. Whereas with Cypress, it's just one package. So in regards to that, I just find in terms of setup and setting up and basically getting up to speed with writing your first test is much faster in Cypress. It doesn't mean though that Selenium is a slow tool. It's just if you're new to test automation, you might find it like too overwhelming to use. So that's why Cypress provides a really good alternative to setting up. How do you approach UI tests with Cypress? Do you see any limitations? Yep, so I guess if we have any tests that requires us opening a different tab, we don't include that in our test automation. We just basically assert the href value because as I mentioned a while ago, Cypress doesn't support multiple tabs. I also mentioned that there's an iframe limitation. So even though there is a workaround, at first it can be quite confusing on how you can test Cypress, on how you can test iframes with Cypress. So it's just those like small things that it took us a bit like a harder time to use as opposed to using Selenium, because with Selenium there is just a built-in support for iframes, whereas with Cypress it's currently not supported. Cool. Yep, I'll share the Cypress for API testing on the meetup page. I'm just making my notes here. Would appreciate, yep. In 5 years' time, do you see Cypress, Nescafe, and Selenium coexisting, or will there be a clear winner takes all? As a program test manager who makes any thoughts? So it's not fair to compare this different tools because they all have like different like architecture. So Cypress, your tests are run directly in the browser, whereas Selenium, its architecture is completely different. It's more mature. So if you want to support different like browsers, then my suggestion would be to use Selenium because you can also integrate with Sauce Labs or Browser Stack with that. But I guess with Cypress, you like currently can't. Although they have support now for Firefox and Edge, other famous browsers like Safari or IE11 is still not supported. What I've seen that other like teams are doing is they have a subset of tests that they run in Cypress and they have a subset of tests that they run in Selenium. So I think depending on what your testing strategy is, it's good to make use of different tools because not one tool can do everything for you. It's just there to make your, I guess, life's like easier. But then, like just from personal, just from my personal experience, I haven't seen any tool that does everything. So it's always good to like mix and match all the different testing tools out there. Do you use Cypress for in-app testing or have you used it for integration? So we only use it for in-app testing. Yep.
Hi, I'm the person who asked the. Thanks for the talk. I'm the person who asked the question about the UA tests. Just wanted to ask you another question in regard to that. How do you approach actually the UI test? What kind of UI properties can you check with Cypress? In a sense, can you check for alignments and or not just checking for CSS properties? I'm talking about actually checking the look and feel of the app in general.
Yeah, so that sounds more like visual testing. You can definitely use Cypress, but then you'll have to write a lot of code just to validate, you know, that the CSS properties are correct, that it has the correct border, the correct color. But then it would actually be beneficial if you use a visual testing plugin. So I mentioned a while ago that you can use things like Cypress image snapshots, or better yet, you can also use Apply tools. So you can see what your app looks like on the different browsers. But with Cypress, you can do that, but it's very limited. And I find that it's better to use a visual testing tool anyway, because you'll still tend to miss a lot of different visual bugs if you just assert all the different like CSS properties. Whereas if you're using an actual visual testing tool, since you're taking a screenshot of the whole page, it will be able to report any sort of like visual differences easily.
All right, thank you.
Can you plug in a test data file such as CSV, which hold names? I haven't used a CSV, but with Cypress, you can actually use data fixtures. So I haven't demoed it because there wasn't really a use case. But say for example, you need to load like a sample test data. Rather than hard coding that into your test, you can load them as fixtures. And then you'll just do something like sci.fixtures and then pass in the JSON name, and then you'll be able to access all the different properties here that you have in your JSON file. The extensive plugins, are they Chrome specific? I would like to think no, but to be honest, I haven't tried running my tests on Firefox or on Edge, but I think it should be able to work the same way. because it's just a plugin on Cypress, so it shouldn't be tied on one browser, but I'm not 100% sure as well. Cool. Yeah, that's my cue. My daughter is screaming now. I guess if there's any no more questions, I'm just gonna say thanks again for everyone who joined, and I'm going to comment my GitHub repo for the different example projects that I have with Cypress. So this should include the API testing, as well as mocking the XHR request before running the test. And yeah, hopefully it should help you. For reporting, yep, so you can check out Mocha Awesome. It's another like plugin. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Mary. Yeah, really good talk. I think the guys got a lot out of it. It seems like there was quite a good amount of questions at the end as well. So yeah, thank you very much again for the talk this evening. As I mentioned at the start, we have been recording, so we'll share the video with everybody tomorrow morning. Also, as Mary mentioned, she'll share her GitHub, so you can find the slides and everything on there. In terms of this, we're trying to make it a regular event, so we're looking to do it every couple of weeks. So if anybody out there is interested in talking in the future or has something that they'd like to share with the group, please do reach out to me, because yeah, we're looking for speakers going forwards as well. Yeah, this is obviously, it's non-recruitment driven, these events. It's a chance for everybody to get together and have a conversation about you know, all things within the QA world. But if anyone's been affected by the current situation, you know, with the uncertainty and everything, please do feel free to reach out and we can have a chat about what we might have out there at the moment. There are many companies that are still interviewing remotely and can onboard remotely as well. So I'd be keen to have a chat with you. Equally the same, if you're in a position where you're hiring, please reach out, because there's obviously, it's a good time to be looking within the market, because it's quite active as well. So as I say, we'll share everything in the morning, the video and obviously the pages. Also, I'll share details. We're here at Oliver Byrne, and we're obviously trying to do our bit as well. So we do have a Just Giving page if anyone would like to contribute, just to go towards the NHS for all of their good work. But yeah, thank you very much for logging in. Thanks again, Mary, for your talk tonight. Any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot, everyone.